What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 2020 WWE TLC Sportskeeda Prediction Show with myself, Denise Salcedo, and I am joined by Spectrum Sports 360 reporter and host of the Living Gimmick podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest, Jon Alba. What's up, Jon?
Denise, it's so great to finally get to break bread here. And I mean, as Team DWO, that's really all that's important to me, that I get to share the screen with you and we get to drop some knowledge on some of these jabronis out here.
Exactly. This is the first time we do our first show together. Perks of the DWO. You get to be, one of my special guests here today. So I'm very excited that this is also technically the first time we're meeting face to face. First show. We're knocking it all out here today.
We are, and I'm just really glad. It's very wholesome content. There's not a lot of wholesome content in pro wrestling these days, so I'm very, very happy about this.
Yes, seriously. So, we're going to break down TLC, which I gotta say, I'm very much looking forward to TLC. I think there are some matches that I'm very much excited for. Jon, sort of looking at this overall, is TLC a pay-per-view that you're looking forward to here today?
I'm so on the fence, Denise, about gimmick pay-per-views, because a lot of times gimmick pay-per-views are done for the sake of just getting the gimmicks in, right? And you need to have compelling stories to really draw me in, to be like, okay, that match validates having said gimmick with it. And while I'm not so sure how I feel about some of the undercard on this show, I do think the two main event programs are very good. And usually if you can stack your main event programs, your pay-per-view is going to come off well, no matter how the rest of the show goes. So.
Exactly. And I think, like you said, those two big matches are the reason why I'm looking forward to this show. It's kind of like, all right, as long as you have at least something to look forward to, it can get me, looking forward to it, especially that we actually have two matches. So we have 6 matches announced for Sunday's show. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start at the bottom, work our way to the top, and basically give our predictions on who we think should win, who we think will win, and just some kind of, feedback on how you feel about the story that's progressed for, each match. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off with the first match that we're going to start it off with today. And it is the Raw Tag Team Champions, The New Day versus the Hurt Business, Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. So Jon, we're going to go ahead and kick it off. Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think should win? What are your thoughts?
How I was just saying how some matches need to warrant having the gimmick and whatnot. Why doesn't this one have a ladder attached to it? Why is this not a ladder match? Look at the 4 guys who were involved with this. And listen, we know WWE booking can change like that. So there's a chance 10 minutes from now, you're going to show a tweet that says, oh, hey, by the way, this is a ladder match. I mean, Shelton Benjamin, who's a prolific ladder match competitor, Xavier Woods, who has been, he was ringside for that iconic Salida del Sol from Kalisto during that ladder match. I mean, it just makes so much sense for it to be. So I'm a little disappointed as of now it's not. These are 4 guys who are going to work really, really hard. And I really enjoy this presentation of the Hurt Business, especially Cedric Alexander, who I think has found something to really bite into, right? And actually feels like he has a purpose there. And it's hard to pick against the New Day on pay-per-view. You're almost never going to win with that, but I think I'm going to. And I think I'm going to go with the Hurt Business winning the tag team championship here.
Oh, wow. You know what? I think given the fact that you mentioned that you like what Cedric Alexander has been doing the last several weeks on Raw, I do see where you're going with this and why you're choosing the Hurt Business, but I'm going to go completely opposite on this one with you, Jon, and I'm going to say the New Day. And I know that maybe, obviously it's a lot more of a fresh idea to put it on the Hurt Business, so I could see it happening, but just because I feel like the New Day has, ever since moving into Raw, they really just, they did the whole belt switching, so for me, it feels like a new thing, so I'm like, I almost feel like they recently became champions, even though they didn't, so right. Part of me is still stuck on that one too. But by the way, we have some comments here. And the first one here is from Riju Dasgupta, who says, welcome to Sportskeeda, Jon. Hope the two of you can explain what a Firefly Inferno match is. We will get to that. We will definitely get to that. Colosso Razi says, I have no idea why, but I'm really excited for TLC. I think we said why, right?
Yeah.
John Elite for Life says, Hurt Business with the title. So I think people are definitely seeing this on your end. And then Sampai Boone says, I'm not excited for TLC because I know TLC will be a boring show to watch. So it seems to me like everybody has a different thoughts on what they're going into for the show. Leonard Serraro says, hey guys, can we see any big surprises at the show with Raw ratings at an all-time low? John,
yeah, and that's exactly something that I actually wanted to bring up during the course of this conversation, that you might think like logically, okay, this is how this story is going to progress. But as we've seen, WWE has a track record for this. If there is an all-time record low rating or something happens like that, something changes out of nowhere. Remember the famous McMahon promo, the power to the people, everyone has, and well, that didn't change. Then we had Raw Dark, Raw Underground. And so you never know, like something can change like that. So for all we know, CM Punk is standing tall at the end of the night here. So like, that's my whole point, I totally understand what Leonard's saying there.
I feel that TLC is either going to have a Goldberg return. I don't know where in this picture, but maybe. I also think that it's going to be left in some sort of cliffhanger. It's got to be something to really push forth those Raw ratings. And I don't know what they're going to come up with or what they're going to do, but I do definitely see something happening over at TLC. Colossus Rossi says KO is definitely jumping off of something.
Probably.
He's been wanting to, right? For quite a while.
WrestleMania was his last fix that he got, jumping off something. So he's got to get back on that.
And Ryan Smith definitely agrees with you on the Hurt Business. He says, give me the Hurt Business as tag champs. MVP has really been good since his return. What do you think about MVP since his return?
Yeah, MVP is being used in a perfect role here with the Hurt Business, and I've really enjoyed that. I think a lot of times you hear people are critical of how WWE uses veterans and legends per se on their programming, and a guy like Goldberg, like you just said, is that a guy who should be winning titles at this stage in his career? I'm not sure about that, but I think MVP is used in a role where he is elevating the guys around him, and he is that necessary mouthpiece for three other guys who maybe aren't the strongest speakers, but you're utilizing him to accentuate their positives and hide their negatives. So I totally agree with that, and I think him as the mouthpiece for the U.S. champion and the tag team champions, that sets up something really interesting going into Royal Rumble season, which I can't believe we're already there, but that's like the fresh new year here in WWE.
Feels like the last time there was even normal was at a Royal Rumble. And we're like skipping through all of it. It's going to be a very different Rumble this year. But let's go ahead and move on to the next match. So the next match that we're going to go ahead and talk about is for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Champions Nia Jax and Shayna will be defending against Asuka and a partner to be named. John, who are your picks for this? And do you have any possible idea on who Asuka's partner will be?
So I think it's Charlotte. I do think it's Charlotte. They have a really unique opportunity to tell a cool story here, and I hope they take advantage of it. Denise, last year when Rhea Ripley lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania, I think a lot of people were like, "What is going on here?" And I kind of held on to the belief that okay, there's going to be a payoff to this, right? And there wasn't. There wasn't really any substantial payoff to that. Hypothetically here, if Charlotte Flair were to make her return here and start some business with Asuka, you could get that title back on Charlotte where Rhea Ripley can go win that Royal Rumble and then pay that story off 1 year later. I don't know if that's what's in the cards. Rhea's been pushed pretty heavily on NXT. So that's why I've got Charlotte here. Maybe I'm just holding on to hope that that's a way to pay that story off. But we know Charlotte, Asuka's one weakness is Charlotte, right? So who better than to be her tag partner? And we've seen WWE do this in the past where they do the Strange Bedfellows tag teams winning the championships, John Cena and Shawn Michaels. We've seen this over the course of the years. So that's why I have Charlotte returning and I have the two of them winning these titles.
Ozzy Mendora says, Asuka will team up with Charlotte Flair to win the Women's Tag Team Championship. And I think we also have Ken who says that he thinks Charlotte Flair will also return and win the titles with Asuka. So it does seem like everybody is definitely going the Charlotte route. Ryan Smith says Charlotte has been posting a lot of pics of her in-ring outfits. Raw has missed her a lot. Rick Ucchino, who is my SmackDown co-host, says, John, I agree with you. I'd love to see Charlotte Ray at WrestleMania, but I hate the idea of feeding Asuka to Charlotte again. See,
yeah.
That's the thing. that I feel like as much as I wouldn't necessarily mind seeing Charlotte and Asuka again, because to be honest, there hasn't been much with Asuka. They haven't been necessarily, treating her or booking her like a champion on Raw. I mean, you could even forget that she's champion at this point, which is very unfortunate to say because Asuka is an incredible and talented performer. But the reason why, as much as I want to see Charlotte return, I don't necessarily want to see her in this tag team match. And the reason for that is that I have not liked the storylines leading to this match in the first place. And it's been, very focused on Lana. So it doesn't really feel to me like this is Charlotte's spot. I would rather see her come back. You know what? Just wait it out. Come back at the Royal Rumble. Like, even if she doesn't win, I don't mind it. I just prefer to see her come back then versus TLC. But again, given that we're talking about ratings being not so great, and they might think, okay, we need some surprises. Let's go ahead and bring Charlotte in. But I just don't think that this is necessarily the place that I would want her at. I just think that Charlotte is at a different level in her game, and a different level. And so I don't think she really fits into the storyline, in my opinion.
But I think that's also exactly why you put Charlotte in this role where she can elevate somebody else to that next level. And I totally hear what Rick is saying, where, Asuka hasn't really gotten one up on Charlotte, but that's part of this story where one day Asuka, hopefully, if we're telling the story long term here, Asuka will get that win back on Charlotte. And maybe it is during this run. Maybe this is when it happens. I'm not sure. But so whether it's elevating an Asuka or elevating a Rhea Ripley, as I fantasy booked here, and I don't really like fantasy booking, but I see that story playing out, and it's so naturally there in front of you, right? And that way Charlotte doesn't have to win the Royal Rumble again, and someone else gets that opportunity. But she still is, as you said, and I totally agree with you, she is on another tier of everyone else there.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, as much as I love Charlotte, I don't think I want to see her winning the Rumble again. I think I would want to see someone like Rhea Ripley, just someone new in general. John Elite for Life says Charlotte will be Asuka's partner, only for Charlotte to turn on Asuka. And we get Asuka Charlotte for the Raw Women's title at WrestleMania. Shayna and Nia retain. See, I'm not even a fan of Shayna and Nia anymore as a tag team.
Yeah.
At the first couple of weeks, all right, it was kind of funny, but now it's run its course. So I'm over that completely and 100%. But let's go ahead and move on to the next match that we're going to be talking about. And we have the women's match here, which is the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Sasha Banks will be defending her title against Carmella. And I mean, we just got this match last week on SmackDown. But what are your thoughts? Are you looking forward to this match? And who are your picks?
I like both of these ladies. I really do. But you just said it right there. Why did we get this match? If they were going to do this at the pay-per-view, what was the point of it? And I find DQ finishes a cheap way out a lot of the time, or schmoz finishes a cheap way out. Sometimes you can make sense of them, but for the most part, I generally find them as, oh, well, we just need a way to extend this. You don't have to do it in the first place. Like there's no one telling you have to do it here. So that cheapens this match for me. It makes it significantly less interesting for me. I think regardless of what happens here, Sasha Banks retains her championship, and what we saw on SmackDown is just a way to get that heat and try to get it to another one. But it certainly has lost a little bit of its luster. And Denise, I'm just asking for Bayley back in a significant role. Bayley was a star in 2020, and she's been regulated. People have to take their turns and whatnot, obviously, but she's lost clean multiple times. I'd rather see Bayley in this picture and just have her and Sasha fight forever, quite frankly.
See, okay, here's the whole situation with this. And I completely agree with you in the sense that, look, we're looking at this match, just looking at it on paper, Sasha Banks is going to win. There is no way that Carmella is winning. And call me extreme to say that, but I just really don't see the chances, right? So the only thing that you really have writing on this match is the not the never before seen, but the first time, the pay-per-view aspect of it all. So when you do the match ahead of time like they did on SmackDown, it really does take away some of the interest. And I was saying this on the SmackDown show that week when it happened, like whatever interest I had going into this match, it's completely taken away by the fact that they did this match. And then even with the finish, it just gave me no satisfaction to continue seeing this match any further. Now, in terms of Carmella, we are seeing this new reinvention of Carmella. How do you feel about this new Carmella?
I think Carmella's talented, and I think she has charisma, and I know there are going to be a lot of people say, I don't see it in her. I see an it factor in Carmella. Is she going to be someone who's going to be carrying your division for years to come? No. But I see her as a valuable piece that can help you in your storytelling and can go in there and be compelling. But she feels just kind of like Sasha Banks right now. And I get it. That's what they're going for. She's the antithesis to Sasha Banks in their storytelling. But I think that she wasn't established as enough. I feel like a lot of times in pro wrestling right now, like she got the vignette treatment and then she was thrown right into that big title picture. Let's give her a few weeks, a few months to marinate on our TVs in this new character so we start getting an understanding before we throw her right in there. And maybe then we're believing it a little more.
Exactly. And Jose Gonzalez says, Mela is money. I mean, I like what she's doing. I think I'm liking it more than I originally was expecting to. I think the, promos that she has been cutting as of late have been really fun. They've been, for that character. So I haven't necessarily been hating it. Although, I mean, I just feel like this match, to be honest, I'm not really looking forward to it. And I just already know that Sasha Banks is going to win, and that's about it. Rick Ucchino says, Matthew Makovsky says, who is typing in the chat for the channel? I don't know who's typing in the chat for the channel. Maybe they will reveal themselves. Rick Ucchino says, give me a Bay Mela tag title run. Those two and the Riot Squad battling over those belts could be really solid TV. We'll see, man. We'll see. I think anybody else other than Shayna and Nia having those belts, I'm all for that. Anybody else? Let's go ahead and move into the next match. And this one kind of might be a little complicated to explain, John, but it is The Fiend versus Randy Orton in a Firefly Inferno match. So I guess, John, give us your description of what you think this match is even going to look like, and who do you think is going to come out reigning on top?
I suspect this is not an actual Inferno match like some have speculated. I believe this is a cinematic match. And I think the loser will be set on fire. So I guess, listen, one wears a full bodysuit, so that certainly leads credence to think that. But pay attention to what Randy Orton's wearing. If Randy Orton is not dressed in his his little tights and all that, and he's got a big sweater on all of a sudden or something that seems that it might be fire resistant.
He's looking like a member of Retribution out of nowhere. Right,
exactly. Maybe that's, I was going to listen, these two have had a cinematic match already and it wasn't good. In fact, it was really, really bad. So my hopes aren't very high for this, Denise.
No, and when I knew that they were going this direction with The Fiend and Randy Orton, I was like, God, these two guys, they just don't bring out any good qualities in one another. They just do not match. Like, there are certain guys that you can definitely do this with, and it could be fun, it could be entertaining, but it ain't Randy Orton and it ain't Bray The Fiend together. It's just not happening. But let's see, we're getting a lot of comments on this. Charbel says that he feels The Fiend will win, and I definitely think so as well, especially if it is that cinematic match, which I expect.
Can you win this? Like, can you win this? Like, I don't know. Like, how do you win? Like, I don't know. Rules would be a good thing, but
it's going to end like questionable, where like you have to decipher your own ending. Like, well, this happened, so I think this is like what happened. Leonard Serraro says this match will either be a big mess or a visual spectacle. Are you into visual spectacles, though? Does that do it for you?
I mean, I think visual spectacles can play a part in pro wrestling, but that should not be the selling point of pro wrestling. Ultimately, we watch pro wrestling for winners and losers, right? Like that's what we boil down to here at the end of the day. And to real quick piggyback off your point about Bray and Randy not having the chemistry together, man, I thought their tag run together in late 2016 going into early 2017, I thought it was outstanding. And then it was when they did the turn where Randy went babyface, and then we got all the mess of the House of Horrors and all that stuff in the WrestleMania match. That's where it just all went downhill. And then to your point, they just never found it again.
They never did. It was all lost. Colossal Razi says, shouldn't Randy be arrested since he tried to murder someone?
That happens a lot in pro wrestling.
Exactly. Ken Carhu Bjorn says this is going to be wild. I just hope it's wild in a good way where like I'm gonna feel satisfied. Something like with cinematic matches, there are hits and there are misses. Like I enjoyed the Money in the Bank cinematic version of that match. I enjoyed the Boneyard match. I to an extent enjoyed the Firefly Funhouse that they did with John Cena and the Fiend. That was pretty fun. And those are the ones that really stuck out in my mind, though. Anything else for me may have been, and I'm speaking in WWE, may have just felt short of the whistle for me. Like when they did the swamp thing. That was horrible. I didn't understand it. I thought I was dumb, John. When I was watching this, I was like, do I not get it? Am I that dumb?
Denise, you're the leader of the DWO. You were not dumb. You were very smart. You surround yourself with smart people. Okay. So
exactly. Here we go. Exhibit A, Jon Alba.
Right.
So there you go. Matthew Makovsky says, I fully expect them to play on the fact that Alexa is the weakness. She shows up leading to Orton winning. Maybe they can play something off like that where she distracts the Fiend, or maybe, Randy Orton uses her to his advantage. Who knows? Yeah,
and what role will Alexa Bliss play in this story? That certainly is something.
Jose Gonzalez says, I have to disagree. The story between Bray and Randy for the last 3 to 4 years has been great. This match brings everything full circle, in my opinion. I mean, I'm glad to hear somebody's interested in it. Personally, I just think it's goofy. But, if someone finds joy in something, then you know what? By all means, go for it. And Ryan Markham does point out that Randy and Bray have had a lot of history. All right, guys, let's move on to the next match here. So let's pull up this graphic. Me and my graphics, they got to come up. This is the match that I think we're definitely looking forward to, or at least one of the matches that we're definitely looking forward to. And it is Roman Reigns, Universal Champion, versus Kevin Owens in a TLC match. So what are your thoughts on this? I mean, I think this is one that I can definitely say we're both interested in, but who do you think's winning?
Yeah, I think this should be the main event of the show, quite frankly. I think Roman and Kevin Owens have been the most compelling thing in WWE TV in some time. And I caught a lot of heat about a month ago when I tweeted, because, you can't praise one thing versus another. And it always has to be a comparison, right?
Wrestling Twitter 101,
right? I know, right? And I had said that I was really into the Moxley Omega story, and I felt like they were just coming off as stars because of it. And I was like, well, what about Roman? And I said, well, Roman's been incredible, but I'm waiting for that program because he already got done with Jey Uso. That feud is done. It's part of the story, but that feud is done. And then a week later, they hit us with this Kevin Owens program. And I'm like, that's it right there. This is exactly what Roman Reigns needed to sink his teeth into, because Kevin Owens is his equalizer. And we've seen their chemistry together in the past. They have history. And I think the little elements that they've added throughout this feud and the multi-layer storytelling that we've seen with Jey Uso added in has just been exceptional. And I expect Jey Uso to play a role in the finish of this match. And I think he will still be trying to prove his loyalty to Roman Reigns ultimately. And that's why I have Roman Reigns winning.
And see, the thing about this match is that, again, I too have Roman Reigns winning, but it doesn't even matter that we sort of see it as a predictable win, because just the fact that these two guys are going at it, and what Kevin Owens is going to bring to the table, and what Roman Reigns is going to bring to the table. So automatically you expect a good match out of this. And that's like one of the things that we need, that even if the win to me is predictable, it doesn't matter if the match is done right and the story is told well.
Yeah, well, and that's what you're invested in the story. And if you are invested in a story, you may think you know how you're going to get from point A to point B, but you're all about the journey that gets you there. And I think that's what makes this such a compelling match, because I think Roman Reigns is holding that title into WrestleMania at the very least, but I'm really interested to see how he gets there. And this story has done a really good job at building those multiple layers.
And let's talk about Kevin Owens a little bit, because Kevin Owens is somebody that whenever he has the ball, I mean, the dude's on fire, right? He rolls with whatever he's got. He gives it all with whatever they give him for the week. But the last several months, he hasn't really been, he's sort of been floating around doing a little bit of everything. He hasn't really been in a solid program. He had the whole thing with Aleister Black that sort of just fell short. He was even doing something with, with Alexa Bliss at one point. I mean, it was just so many different things that happened. And this is the first time in a while that we've actually seen him be some sort of focal point. And especially right now with Roman Reigns, who's the hottest thing in WWE, it's a pretty good spot for him. So what do you think about Kevin Owens, what they've been doing with him as of late, and where we're sort of seeing him go and, where he's at right now?
Yeah, he was kind of in abeyance because it's no secret. I mean, he even said it in an interview this past week that he was going to win that championship at WrestleMania 35 in New Jersey. And then Kofi Mania happened and it just kind of changed all the plans. And he's been struggling to find his own ever since then. So I think they were trying to find his role. They had the Rollins feud and that went a while. The natural progression for Kevin Owens at some point here, even though he should be a top guy, and I'm totally with you on that. The natural progression is for him to feud with heel Sami Zayn as a babyface, to flip that story that we've seen so many times. And hopefully that's the collision course that we're on for.
Yeah, it kind of feels like after this Roman Reigns situation, though, I'm a little bit worried that he's going to go back sort of to what he was doing, where he's a little bit there and he's a little bit here, but he was never really fully invested in something that he's doing. So I hope that after the Roman Reigns thing, I do want to see him move forward with something like what you just mentioned. So I hope that we get to see that, especially because I know for a fact that this match is going to be good, because if there's any first of all, Roman Reigns hasn't been on fire just with the storytelling aspect. If you're just focusing on the storytelling aspect, it's been phenomenal with Roman Reigns. And then with Kevin Owens, the thing about him in his last several matches that he's had is that, again, he brings this energy to the ring that I don't think everybody also has. Like, there's certain guys that bring a certain type of energy that I see in guys like Kevin Owens, guys like Montez Ford, guys like AJ Styles, that is not easily duplicated with other people. Ozzy Medora says, Kevin will win, but Roman will cheat to win with Jace helping him. Yeah, I think that's definitely where we're going on that, like you just mentioned. Charbel says Kevin will win because Jimmy will return and destroy Roman. So we're getting quite a few for Kevin Owens here. Colossal Rozzy says, I want Sammy to screw Kevin Owens so we can get Kevin Owens versus Sammy at WrestleMania. And Ken says, I would like Kevin Owens, but I think Roman will win. Unfortunately, I hope to see Roman Reigns win. And Pat Hackinson says Kevin Owens is going to win. Roman is too big for himself. It seems like the chat is turning on Roman here. Are you sensing that, John?
I am. I mean, he is a big we heard. And listen, the idea of Jimmy coming back, I don't think he would come back to hurt Roman. I think Jimmy would come back to prove his loyalty to Roman. And he tore his ACL about 8.5 months ago. So if his recovery went well, it is totally plausible that he could be returning in this. And then you have both Usos in his corner.
Yeah. Matthew Makovsky says this is going to be absolutely insane. A huge spot. I would love to see a power bomb from the top of the ladder through a table. Jose Gonzalez has a long one for us, but let's read it. He says, I'm very biased towards Kevin Owens. He hasn't had legit title run in 3 years since he dropped the title to Goldberg. I think Jey Uso will definitely get involved, but may cost Reigns the match. If TLC has taught us anything, is that title changes do happen at this pay-per-view. So I'd like to be hopeful that Kevin Owens will be the new Universal Champion, but Reigns will probably take it. I thought everybody was going to be rooting for Roman Reigns on this one, but clearly I'm wrong. I'm seeing a lot of people that want to see Kevin Owens become the champion.
Yeah.
Does this surprise you, John?
I think it's a credit to how good Kevin Owens is as a babyface, right? Like he is a legitimate fan favorite, and I think people are craving to see him at that next level.
That's incredible. I really did. I didn't expect it. Like, even though we all know that he's a babyface and he's great and all that, blah, 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 I still expected people to really pick Roman.
He looks like the rest of us dudes. He looks like the rest of us who are out there. He's a common man. That's why we like Kevin Owens.
You're going to cheer for the common man. Ain't nobody looking like Roman Reigns.
Love that odds here.
Exactly, right? All right, last match that we're going to go ahead and talk about, and it is the WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre defending his title against AJ Styles in a TLC match. I think this one's going to be fantastic, John. What do you think? Who do you think is going to win? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, I think Drew McIntyre has been really great, even though I didn't love how they kind of flip-flopped the title for really seemingly no reason with him. And this is the kind of environment that AJ Styles thrives in, right? We remember that awesome TLC match he had with Jon Moxley or Dean Ambrose back then a few years ago. That was exceptional. The 450 through the table on the outside, it was just incredible. And I fully expect that they will have themselves a heck of a match here. This is a match my gut says Drew McIntyre, but we've got the presence of Almost on the outside. Sheamus is kind of floating in the story here. I think Almost adds a lot to AJ Styles' presentation, and presence goes a really long way. It's kind of what you were just talking about before. I'm picking Drew McIntyre, but I don't say that confidently because this is a program that you could get a few matches out of if you really wanted to. And who better to do it than AJ Styles, right? And plus, we have the whole thing with The Miz just lurking around with Money in the Bank. And after a TLC match, that certainly is something that could be viable.
God, I hope not. I do not want to see The Miz try and cash in. And if he does, I do not want to see him cash in successfully whatsoever. I would not be a fan of that at all. Like, I would probably be like, you know what? I'm calling out sick. I'm not going to show up to my post-Raw show. This is it. I'm not going to do this TLC pay-per-view live stream. I'm done. I would not be having it. But I am looking forward to this match. And one of the things that I'm wondering is because, we mentioned at the top of the stream that Raw is struggling with viewership. So part of me wonders if to pop a rating, they're probably going to take the belt off of Drew, and it's not anywhere near Drew's fault. If anything, he's been, a highlight of Raw, but I almost wonder if they're going to take the belt off of him and put it on AJ just to maybe, get some new viewers and see if that pops a rating.
Yeah, and they've really done a good job with, as I was saying before, with Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. They're doing it here too with that multi-layered storytelling where Sheamus and Drew do have legitimate history, and AJ destroying Sheamus this past week. That's good, effective storytelling, and kind of what we said at the top of the show, where you have two strong main event matches. That's going to get people to tune in, and I think that should be enough incentive for that. But maybe it is one of those circumstances where, like you said, it's like, okay, we got to do something here. I don't know if Miz is the answer there, but AJ Styles might be.
Yes, exactly. And I think that either way, so my pick though, honestly, I could see this one going either way. It depends on their mentality looking into this match. Either A, you have Drew retain, fantastic. He still has so much mileage left to go. And even so much mileage with this, AJ Styles, Drew McIntyre story. Secondly, I could see them again popping a rating, trying, putting the belt on AJ. So in terms of who will win, I think that Drew McIntyre should win, but I could see AJ definitely winning. But either way, I'm expecting a hell of a match because we all know that AJ Styles is going to be out there flying around this entire ring, doing all of this crazy stuff. Drew McIntyre is going to be bringing the power. I mean, it's going to be a really great balance between both Drew McIntyre and AJ Styles. So I'm very, very much looking forward to this match. I can't decide which match I'm most looking forward to, if it's this one or the Roman Reigns Kevin Owens match. But either way, these are like the ones where this is what's keeping me going and really looking forward to this pay-per-view. Before we go, I'm going to read some last comments and see what you guys are saying here in regards to the Drew AJ Styles match. So this one's from Matthew McCoskey, who says Drew wins, but as good as Roman's versus Kevin Owens will be, this will be more of a good match, not discrediting Roman and Kevin Owens. What do you think? Are you more looking forward to the Roman Kevin Owens match or the Drew AJ Styles match?
It's those different flavors of storytelling, right? Like, and that's the beauty of pro wrestling. Like, I'm going to put over Limitless Wrestling here for a second because we have our Vacationland Cup show coming to you on IWTV tomorrow at 7 p.m. Go check that out. But with that show, we try to give you different flavors of ice cream because everyone's got their own tastes, right? What do you like? What's your favorite flavor of ice cream, Denise?
Black cherry.
Black cherry. I love cookie dough, okay? Two totally different flavors, but we're there to eat the ice cream at the end of the day. So Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens, that's going to be your more storytelling-centric match where, I mean, they're two incredible in-ring performers, but it's going to be centered around the storytelling, whereas Styles and McIntyre is going to be a car crash, and it's two incredibly talented pro wrestlers going at it. So that it's hard to compare like one over the other. It's more of a 1A, 1B kind of thing for me.
I feel you completely. Ken says that he thinks Style will lose by DQ. Benjamin says, I think the bodyguard almost might interfere. Colossus Rossi says, not because I'm Scottish, but I want Drew to hold the title forever. And Rick Ucchino says, Miz cashes in, makes it a triple threat with when both McIntyre and Styles are down, climbs the ladder and wins. Rick, you're just pushing my buttons here. Charbel says Drew will lose. Drew will lose. Sheamus will kick Drew in the face. AJ Styles help slam Drew through the table. I don't see a Sheamus turn right now. Do you see a Sheamus turn?
Usually when WWE sets up the whole stories of, oh, that's my best friend over there, usually it does set up for a turn. And my thinking was that would probably be Sheamus and Drew at the Rumble or something like that. So while this story has not set up for that entirely, I'm very much open to the idea that that may be what's coming.
Henry Zhu says, would be really cool if the bodyguard doesn't need a ladder to retrieve the title. I don't even think I don't know. Think about it. He could jump a little bit, maybe get it.
He's a former Division I basketball player at the University of South Florida, 6'10", legitimately. He might even be taller than that, a true 7-foot Jordan Amagbian. So, put Styles on his shoulders. There you go. That's all you need to do.
That would be fantastic and a really good way to utilize them. Colossus Rossi says, okay, hear me out. AJ and Drew will go through the announcer table and Miz will come down to cash in, climb the ladder, and then in that way, AJ or Drew don't look weak. Oh, God, I don't like any of this.
No. And like the thing is, like, why would Miz cash in a ladder match? Like, that would make it harder for him because then he has to climb a ladder rather than just pinning somebody. So I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't feel anything with the Miz, and I hate to say that because I like the Miz, but I just don't want to see him with the title right now, right? I'm just not feeling it. That is our show, everyone. John, before we go, I want to thank you so much for coming on here, doing these predictions with me. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on TLC once it actually happens. But before we go, John, feel free to plug in anything you'd like, tell the people where to follow you, etc.
Great. Well, you can find me on Twitter at Jon Alba, JONALBA, because H's are for losers. Why would we put those in there? And you can check out Living the Gimmick, a pro wrestling podcast. It drops every single Tuesday morning for you. We've been really hammering a lot of the stuff heading into this season, and I think people will enjoy that. And you can check out our Patreon as well, patreon.com/Living the Gimmick, for a bunch of bonus content. And as I said, Denise, I'm heavily involved with Limitless Wrestling, which I think is one of the top promotions in all of New England. And you're going to see an awesome show on IWTV tomorrow at 7 o'clock. With some of the top pro wrestlers in the world. And it's going to be an exceptional show. And I'm so grateful, Denise, that I got to spend some time with you here on this Friday morning. And Team DWO for life, girl.
Exactly. John, thank you so much, guys. Make sure to follow John at Jon Alba, correct? At Jon Alba. Make sure to follow him. And then as for us here at Sportskeeda, I will be on later on with Ryan Bowman, and we're going to be doing the Smack Talk show. We're going to be reviewing SmackDown. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. So make sure you guys come in for that. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at _Denise Salcedo. Do not forget to subscribe to Sportskeeda. Hit those like pages, subscribe, follow, the whole deal. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone. Take care.